What's up, everybody? It is the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast, and guess what? It's Listener Questions Live, and we got a special one on tap for you because we're going to have some guest hosts coming in, and part of the thing we're going to kind of maybe make a little bit of a theme of in the next few weeks and months, bringing in some fans, some content creators, all kinds of different people to help us out and give their thoughts on the Bengals offseason and whatnot. I'm Anthony Cosenza, though. You probably recognize my ugly mug if you've been around these parts before. And of course, I'm joined by the talent, John Sheeran. John, what's going on, my friend? Happy Friday to you. Is it Friday?
Talented.
It's Friday, right?
It is Friday. I'm sick of you implying that you have no talent. This channel would be nothing without you, man. Like, don't stop selling yourself short.
We're all good. We're all good. Well, good to be with all of you. Hey, we're going to bring in our guests in just a second here. Before we do, I want to let everybody know that you can get in touch with us a number of different ways to get your questions to us. There are a number of live chats going, whether it's on Cincy Jungle's Facebook page, our Orange and Black Insider YouTube channel. And then, of course, we've got a comment thread on Cincy Jungle on a post there. Number of Twitter accounts that you can tweet to. Email the obinsider@gmail.com. We'll be monitoring that. And then, of course, you can call or text 949-542-6241. So get your questions in. We'll be here for a little while. And we're going to have some help this week. And we're having some help, John, from a couple of special guests who are Bengals fans. And I think they listen to our show. I hope they listen to our show. I don't know. But even if, they're awesome guys. The Aarons. Houday, AJ, and A-Mac. What's going on, fellas? How's it going?
What's going on, guys?
What it do, baby? What's happening, man?
Well, what's going on? I'll start with AJ here. Tell us, if you would, a little bit about yourself, where you can be found on Twitter, and just a little bit about your Bengals fandom and all that good stuff. So this is your resume.
This is my coming out moment right here. I gotta make sure I do not mess this up. So my name is Aaron. I go by on Twitter. It's @double_A_Houday. So I'm originally from New York. Born and raised in New York City. My family, we moved to Western New York around Rochester, to Rochester when I was like 9 years old. Before that, like I never really paid a lot of attention to football. Baseball was my sport. I really liked baseball. I grew up walking distance from Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. So that was me. But I could look out my grandmother's back window and I could see Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
So baseball was huge for me. Not really so much football. Because Giants and Jets, they're all out in New Jersey. So when we moved to Rochester, everybody, if you're familiar with Western New York, everybody up there is Buffalo Bills fan. I did not like living in Western New York, so I decided that I was going to hate everything about Western New York. So I decided to hate the Buffalo Bills. And then the '88 AFC Championship game, Houday Nation played the Bills, and the Bengals won, and I was like, that's my football team. So that's how I became a Bengals fan from New York. Like that was it. And I tell people all the time, like it could have went any other way. That could have been the Chiefs or the Steelers. Anybody, whoever beat the Bills that day would have been my team. But I'm super excited that it was the Bengals, and that I've been a part of this since I've been 11 years old and 44 now. Got to watch that awesome Super Bowl run this year. So all the ups and downs, everything it's been worth it. I love it. Bengals Twitter was on fire this year. It was great. Getting to interact with John and Anthony was been really, really cool. Get this opportunity to come on here and talk a little bit about myself and then interact and things of that nature. I'm also a 20+ year Navy veteran. Thank you. I do content creating. And I do a little social media managing on the side when I'm not working, but everything it's Houday all day for me.
Love it. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, well, Houday. I like that.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And A-Mac, was it you who had met John at an event or before a game recently?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I first stumbled into this lovely guy. First of all, no, before we even get into this, AC, you gotta quit calling yourself an ugly mug, all right, man? You got the
That's
cool
what I'm telling him,
breeze,
dude.
bro. That's what I'm saying. You underplay yourself. He's humble, guys. He's humble, but You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah. So I met John at it was a like before the Thursday night game against the
Blind Pig.
Jaguars. The Blind Pig. They had an
Oh,
event there.
okay.
I
Yeah.
think it was the Locked On Boys hosted an event there, and then I met John there, and was just giving him props. We do watch the show, pretty often. Much to my wife's chagrin sometimes. But anyways, but no, so we start talking there. And then we met again at another Locked On event after before the was it before the Raiders?
Yes,
No,
yeah.
it was before the Raiders
Okay.
game, yeah. And from there we were just like, we hit it off, and he was just like, I like he liked what I was saying, and I like what you guys do, obviously. So he said he would like to have me on sometime, and I was more than happy to oblige. So
Well, awesome.
But outside of that, my fan history is a very standard one. It's not as remarkable as before me. It's a tough act to follow, But no, I was born and raised into it. I was born into the orange and black. My mom wasn't necessarily a super fan, and then in the 90s. I mean, I was born in the 90s, so I'm part of that generation, like who had to go through. Just
took your lumps, man. You
Right,
took your lumps.
you took your lumps early and often. But yeah, I remember like when my fandom actually really started outside of just being placed into it by people. I think I went to I would watch Corey Dillon a lot, and I used to just love watching Corey Dillon run the ball because he was one of the only highlights of the team at the time. So and I remember my first Bengals game being the one where he like throws his stuff off on the sidelines, and like I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like that was a great one. But from there, I mean, obviously, like I came into my prime during the Palmer, Chad, TJ, era of it all, and then from there, like the fact that they solidified, they were cool. They were the cool Bengals team, or they were the coolest Bengals team that I'd ever seen. Right at the time that I was really starting to understand the game. It was just perfect. So then from there, it's been baked in. I'm a lifer. What was it? Bengal born, Bengal bred, something like that. Right?
There you go. Well, nice. Good to have both of you with us, and this won't be the last time for sure that we have both of you on in some capacity, but we appreciate you making time. And I have to publicly apologize to you both. We talked about doing this last week, and just all kinds of things came up. So I'm glad you were able to kind of be flexible and make this work. And we're looking forward to having your insight and everything as we all kind of talk about some of the things going on in Bengals Nation and some of the burning questions on the minds of fans right now. We've already got a couple super chats coming in, and first in line, John from Kentucky is on the phone. Got in early. John, good to hear from you, my man. I know you and I go way back on this show and other shows, and you've seen a lot of Bengals football. I mean, I'm really curious to see what you have to say about not only what's going on right now, but this Bengals season.
Oh, it was astounding. And thank you, Anthony. Yes, I've been talking to you for quite a few years now. I was a little bit concerned about the Bengals because, okay, we've made the Super Bowl, and some people were asking me, the last time the Bengals made the Super Bowl, the year after that, they were 8-8. Then I think the year after that, they were 2-14. Half their players were gone. The coach did not get along with the new owner. The previous fantastic, great owner was now deceased. And I said, well, you know what? Now, wait a minute. I think we're in much better shape now than we were in those days. Number one, we have a stadium. When Mike Brown took the team over, he wasn't sure he could keep the team in Cincinnati. So, and he wasn't really a football guy. So in those days, the Bengals were not really a team that a lot of people wanted to play for. It was pretty obvious. But slowly but surely things have changed. And, of course, lightning struck, 3 years ago when we got Joe Burrow. A lot of people in life don't believe in luck, but I want to tell you, I believe in luck when it comes to this. I do think the Bengals finally won the lottery here. But anyway, what amazes me, Anthony, is, I've told people for years, especially my son, I said, son, you see a lot about the Steelers in the media. and the Cowboys. I said, look, those teams are names in the NFL. Cincinnati is not a name. They never have been. Well, I was astounded this season with all the support nationwide for the Bengals. I just could not get over it. I guess there's a lot of bandwagon fans, but it was pretty incredible. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Sorry if I'm rambling on here.
No, you're good.
That was the most incredible thing.
You're good. There's a couple of topics we're going to touch on here, and we're gonna keep it moving. But John, always good to hear from you, my man. And I hope you enjoyed this season. I know you've been a longtime Bengals fan, and this was a special one. So I hope you enjoyed it. But we'll answer a couple of those topics off the air, my friend.
Take care.
All right.
Day.
Thanks, John. So a couple things here. And we'll start with Houday AJ first, I guess. Were you surprised at kind of the groundswell of support that the Bengals received through the postseason? And there's the juggernaut of the Chiefs, and Tennessee had some star players, and then you had all these other teams, the Rams kind of the super team, but the Bengals just kind of seemed to, the fans traveled well. And there kind of seemed to be anyone who didn't have a dog in the fight, in the postseason fight, in the Super Bowl fight, didn't really. They seemed to gravitate towards the Bengals.
Yeah. So, was I surprised? I don't know. Surprised would be the word. I think I was more so just excited that that was the thing. I have a few friends of mine that are Titans fans. So they watched the Titans game with me, and then after that, they're like, "Hey, man, we're on board with your boys." And I was just like, "Man, that's pretty cool." I think the biggest real surprise for me, honestly, was how well the fans were able to travel. That was the biggest eye opener. So obviously a home game with the Raiders, and then the takeover in Nashville. Shout out to Bengals Jim for doing that, and just getting the entire tailgate on the road. And then they picked up and went right down to Kansas City, and then everybody that made it out to the Super Bowl. So that and not surprising in a bad way. I was just surprised that that it's like the caller said, they're not a name brand team. So I like to think about the Bengals as the blue collar team. So from a small town like that, people just being able to just pick up and get it all together and help each other out and traveling to all those stadiums, that's what was the biggest surprise to me. I think the fan support, especially from other teams, that really wasn't a surprise. I think a lot of people really wanted the Bengals to actually, to be good. They, a lot of times people say the NBA is better when the Celtics and the Lakers are good, and the NFL is good when the Steelers and the Cowboys are good. And I just think it kind of just felt like, hey man, the Bengals are actually a really good team, and so let's throw all support behind it. So I was on board with it. You can't never consider anybody a Bengals fan to be a bandwagon. Who? There's no such thing as being. If you're a fan of the Bengals, then you've been a fan of the Bengals. I think everything else was just support, and I thought it was great, and I loved it.
Yeah, and to your point a little bit, the one of the guys who has been very, very ardent in his criticism of the Bengals over the years, and really even through their success this year, Colin Cowherd, when they made the Super Bowl, he routinely said in the week or weeks leading up to the Super Bowl that the Bengals being good was actually good for the NFL. The parity aspect and all of that. Yeah. And I thought that from a guy that, I know we like to disagree on a lot of points that Colin Cowherd sometimes made, particularly with the Bengals, that I thought that was kind of a poignant statement by him, and one that I agreed with. Hey, Mac, I want to ask you, and then John, I want to get your thoughts too, because I know you and I have talked about this topic a little bit, but the other facet that John called in about was the Bengals being set up well, or maybe does this team fall into the same trap that the other Super Bowl teams fell into, and that they could not make it back, whether it was an aging roster, just could not get over that hangover. I guess I know obviously you're a fan. You got the Migos shirt, you got the glasses set the glasses set up there. But realistically though, what are your feelings in terms of the Bengals getting back to the Super Bowl, seizing this championship window, because it seems to be ripe for the taking, but it is so hard to get back to that game.
Right. And I would say That's true. I mean, like before you begin this conversation, you always have to put that caveat in the beginning of the conversation. It is incredibly difficult to get back to a Super Bowl. However, as far as with that being said, are we set up? Like I don't know that I know a Super Bowl team that went as far as that got there like that in my recent memory for me, but with everybody who was key on offense at the very least being so young and under rookie contracts, like you in such a good cap space, like logically there should be no reason out barring like catastrophic injury or some things that you just can't help, like the football gods, like there should be no reason that you don't you're not resource deficient. Like it's not like this Super Bowl run left you resource deficient like it does a lot of Super Bowl teams. You don't have the issue of an aging roster. Everybody whose core is relatively young, I mean, very young, and have been relatively healthy outside of our guy, the number one guy. But I mean, but with all that aside, I don't know of a Super Bowl team that came out of a Super Bowl and like had even win or lose whatever, and it was like your future's so bright, like. Outside of like maybe the Chiefs, but the Chiefs were already like, very, like they were very good before they got Mahomes. They were a 10-win team anyways. So like that, maybe that, like outside of the Chiefs, I don't see too many teams that come out like that. We are very like we got so much cap space. The one major issue that we have is so apparent that anybody, like, it's literally just get guys to fix this, like pay the guys to fix it. It isn't like so I'm very, and I will say I have expectations this year, like for the first time in maybe since 2015, like since like I have expectations of like you should be a playoff team. It like barring like everything, notwithstanding, like I said, catastrophic injury, all that stuff, you should be at the very least a playoff team, and you should be a deep run like playoff team with my talent. That's just how I feel about it. So
yeah, John, he brings up a good point. I seem to remember a lot of those Patriot teams right after they won or made a Super Bowl. It was when free agency rolled around, it was let's pay who was it, like David Patton, and let's pay these guys a lot of money because they were from the Patriots, and obviously when they went elsewhere, it was like, oh boy, it was kind of the Patriot thing. This team doesn't seem to have all those players to be poached. They've got obviously a couple of big ones. It just doesn't feel the same way to me looking at this free agency period, and maybe that's being a little blindly optimistic, but I'd love to get your thoughts too on this.
So the whole thing about being like ahead of schedule and playing with house money, if you will, like that is in line with just a team who's ascending and not necessarily has gone the whole course of this journey of getting to this point that lasted years, and then it just ended, and you kind of sense like there's a burnout phase from that. And I think that is where you get to Super Bowl hangovers. That we can talk about, like the 2015 Panthers, the 2017 Eagles, just other like the Ravens, even still in 2012, like teams that spent years building their rosters to get to that point, and then either winning or losing. That's the pinnacle, right? And it's hard to get back there. And it's hard to get back there regardless of what you do. But the difference with this team is that they are ascending in the fact that they can still get significantly better because of the cap space, because they still are very young and can gain more experience in that sense. And I think AMAC made a good point here, like the whole expectations factor of this whole thing, because at least from the outside, they weren't expected to do much this season. Now the spotlight is on them, and now they're expected to not only go to the playoffs, but do something in the playoffs because there's the precedent for that. And I think that could potentially break another team in this situation if their quarterback wasn't Joe Burrow. And I think that's the biggest advantage that the Bengals have in this situation, whereas they had the leadership to handle those expectations going forward. Combine that with the fact that they can get better, combine that with the fact that they weren't even their best form in the regular season to get to that point. I think you could definitely see a better product, and those things in itself could counter out what many people refer to as a Super Bowl hangover.
John, do you want to pick one of we've got a few super chats here, a couple of good ones. Do you want to start from there, and we can kind of keep it rolling?
Yeah, sure. We got a super chat from Joshua Matter, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. And he's asking, which offensive lineman will keep their starting job. And as AMAC was referring to, yeah, like that's the one definite area where like the team needs to improve. But knowing the Bengals, like going all in on this doesn't necessarily mean what the Chiefs did, is basically like completely replacing the offensive line. We have to figure that at least a couple of guys will be back and now they're competing for starting jobs or maybe retain their starting jobs. So let's start with AMAC here. Like what do you which players do you think will keep their starting jobs or just still being around in the equation?
I mean, honest, I feel like a lot of people. One of the things that frustrates me about the conversation is like I've heard a lot of discourse about upgrading at center and then moving guys around here and paying a guy who plays left tackle and then put him at right tackle or play wherever. Like, and I just keep thinking back to Dave Lapham talking. And Willie Anderson. It's like it's not musical chairs. Like you pay a guy who plays right guard and then you try to place him at left guard. You're paying for the right guard. You want to put them where they go because that's where you got optimum performance from them. If you don't want to, like, my thing is remove all the variables from getting this offensive line. That's why I'm tired of drafting offensive linemen. There's nothing but a variable. I want to pay guys and put them where we play them. So offensive linemen, I think, should keep their job. The center, there's a chemistry that develops between a quarterback and a center. And it's been apparent that from day one, like think about how Joe Burrow scores his first touchdown in the NFL. He runs it and he's running behind Hopkins. Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole time and runs it in for the touchdown. Like they have a chemistry there that's, and people want to like judge him. It's like, we all know that he was coming back off the ACL tear earlier in the year. And then if you look at it further on in the year, he was working with like, that right side. I mean, you can only cover for it so much. He's not like an issue. He should stay at his spot. Jonah, that's a tough one for me because I think he should stay at his spot as well, obviously, because that's what we know him for. But, like a lot of these linemen that are hitting the market, they want to do left tackle because that's where you get the money. And what do you do there? That's a great question. I think Jonah should stay, but I could see if you get a significant upgrade, like seeing maybe if he would, try him out there. Quinn Spain, maybe. It depends on the money that he's asking for. I don't know that there's the market for him, I can see that those three are the ones that I could see maybe keeping their spot the most. The other two is, obviously that's just like, pretty much whoever you could grab that is competent and better, like starting quality linemen on that right side need to get there, and those guys can develop, and we'll see. They're great. That's the thing. They're good depth. I just don't want them starting 17 games. Like that's just I don't want that. Like I want starters, and we'll see what happens with Riley Reif. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe he's looking retirement. So I don't know if we would consider him as the one who keeps his spot, but we'll see. I want to upgrade that right tackle and that right guard position. Obviously, like hands down, I don't care who it is, what you need to get it to him and put it there because you already got the depth, at those spots. You just need the people, to start. So
AJ, there's been rumors about potentially the Bengals looking at like a Bradley Bozeman at maybe center, maybe left guard. He played center his last year at the Baltimore Ravens, but just the fact that a guy like Bozeman is being floated around to the Bengals, it insinuates that they're looking potentially to move on from Trey Hopkins. And just like AMAC said, like right guard, right tackle, those are obvious holes to be filled and upgraded. Is it wise to look at an upgrade over Hopkins too when you have those problems there, or do you see Hopkins as a guy that you can rely on for maybe one more year?
So that's a tough one for me because I agree with everything that AMAC said about Trey Hopkins. I like all the people on Twitter and various articles talking about when we have to upgrade Trey Hopkins. I don't see it. He's coming off that major injury, and he came off the injury like the last game of the season last year. So it's going to take a while, to come back from that. But at the same time, I can completely understand if they were to upgrade. If it was, not even necessarily needing to be a significant upgrade, but if it was a good enough upgrade and, someone that you felt was going to perform better, I could definitely see that. I don't really think Bozeman is all that, though.
He's okay.
If you're gonna get Bozeman, you might as well just keep Hopkins.
That's how I feel about it too. I
watched tape. And I think John, you posted some tweets today with Bozeman And then and the only thing I kept thinking to myself was, I remember us destroying the Ravens' offensive line, and guess who was the center? Bozeman. Like, so why do I want him protecting Joe Burrow? Give me Trey Hopkins. And like Amax said, you got just upgrade the right side. Like, I'm fine with Riley Reif coming back. You draft a young tackle. If Reif wants to come back, you draft a young tackle, and let him work his way into it. I am not okay with Jackson Carman. I'm sorry. I know the team is high on him. That's why they drafted him in the second round. I am not okay with Jackson Harmon there, not protecting Joe Burrow. That needs to definitely be an upgrade. I'm okay with, not really say okay. Like, I'm fine with Jonah. I think Frank Pollock coming in and working with Jonah Hill was great for his career, because like I really was ready to kick him to the curb. Like, yeah, get rid of Jonah Hill. I'll go out there and try. I could probably do better than what Jonah Hill was over there. I mean, Jonah Williams was over there doing.
Jonah Hill, I like it.
it. I was like, I can do better than what Jonah Williams is over
Sounded
there.
close enough, though. I allowed it.
Yeah, it was close. Yeah.
I think one of the things you could do, like, if it's possible, maybe move Jonah to left guard, bring in a Laramie Tunsil, and then you got Hopkins, and then upgrade the right side. But to answer your question, I don't think we need to. There's not a necessary need to upgrade from Trey Hopkins. I'm fine with letting him come back for one more year, play one more year, draft the center. What's the guy from Iowa? Linderbaum.
I doubt he's gonna be there for us, though. I mean, we'll see. The draft is crazy.
You never know. I mean, even if it's like a second round center, or Hopkins is going to play well enough. Now he's going to have a full offseason to really get back from that injury, and then let the rookie. I think that's a place where you can draft a rookie and then slowly bring him along, because like I said, Hopkins is more than serviceable. He just the right side of the line needs to be upgraded significantly.
Yeah, I just to kind of wrap on that. There are a couple of things I would like to see the Bengals do. I mean, number one, they need to definitively internally, they don't need to say it externally, but they need to definitively identify the areas on the offensive line where they say, we are not good enough here, and this is where we're making a starter level replacement. And to Amac's point, it has to be the guy. It has to be a right guard. And my thing is, they love the players that give you tackle guard versatility. They love the players that give you all kinds of swing versatility. And that's great. That's a valuable asset in the NFL. But a lot of times, if you are viewed as a guard tackle in the NFL, you're not really a tackle, right? I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. You're pretty much a guard at that point. So I would like to see them, if they are going to value that flexibility factor, I would like to see them really hone in on that on the interior of the offensive line, center guard flexibility, not necessarily guard tackle flexibility, because I just feel like you lose some athleticism there. And then I do want to see them not on every position, but I would like to see some form of almost a swing for the fence type of mentality at one position, whether that is swinging a trade for, as unrealistic as it was that John and I talked about it on Wednesday, swinging a trade for a Laramie Tunsil, and then you make a move to Jonah Williams elsewhere on the line, whether that is, getting a Morgan Moses or what have you to get an entrenched starter where you go, that is a needle moving move. Or trade up for Linderbaum if you think he's not going to be there at 31, right? I mean, that's supposed to be a generational center right there. If you're able to move up and get the guy, then go get a guy that you feel can really anchor your offensive line. But you can't be gun shy. You got to do something a little bit, I feel, out of their comfort zone. Will they do that? John and I discussed that on Wednesday night. Probably not. That's just not really who they are, even though they were so close to the ultimate type of success. They'll make moves. They'll do things. I wish they would kind of go a little bit more all in on some of these things, but I don't know that I see it. We'll see what happens here. I love this one from Nandon, and I'll start with you here, AJ. Thoughts on Chris Evans as RB2, especially now that Samaje Perine somehow in some way is a little bit of public enemy number one after the Super Bowl there. Yeah. So I don't know. Chris Evans is RB2 going forward. There's a lot to like there, skill set wise.
Five wide with Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Spooky stuff.
Yeah.
So are we talking RB2 for the team, or are we talking RB2 for my fantasy league? What are we talking here? Team. Okay, because I like them both. Every time I hear Chris Evans' name, the first thing I think about is that Detroit game when Joey B laid him out there perfectly for that touchdown. And that same Detroit game. And I'm so upset, and I kept saying it so much, so often. That screen that they threw to Joe Mixon when Jamar went down there and gave him that block, the whole rest of the season, I was like, where's that screen been at? Like, that Super Bowl would have been a great time to break that out. And I think that's definitely something that Chris Evans is going to bring to the team. He runs a lot stronger than Samaje Perine to me, the way, from the opportunities he's had to be in the game. He's definitely a threat to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's definitely someone I trust a lot more to spell Joe Mixon moving forward, keep Joe healthy. And I think he's I can't believe we got him where we got him. Honestly, but definitely RB2 all the way, hands down. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There should be nobody else brought in free agency unless they're just going to be a camp body to keep Joe Mixon and Chris Evans healthy. I don't think that's it. That's all that needs to be said. RB2 most definitely Chris Evans. He's my new Gio Bernard.
All right. And Max nodding in agreement here. What's on the mind?
So here's the thing. I love that he should be RB2, but I understand that the offensive line being bad limited so much. It's weird. Like, there's another question. One of the first questions I saw was like talking about Zach Taylor's play calling and how it's holding the team back. And I'm like, it's weird because the offensive line changes so much, even down to who is your RB2. Why is Samaje Perine in there on these third downs, right? It's because he's the one they trust the most in pass protection, allegedly. That's what it seems like. So, and we don't know what Chris Evans is. He's a variable in pass protection. So when you already have variables on your offensive line, you can't put another variable back there as the last line of defense for your quarterback. And it takes away what you can do with your tools, all because you have an ailing offensive line. So that's why I feel like Chris Evans, like, I try to keep that in mind when I'm like judging and like, the moves that they made and why isn't Chris Evans in there? And it's like, who knows what they think about him in a pass protection game. And they're, if it's a third down or something where he would be in there, that he needs to be able to be versatile enough to do that. And, so I would love to have Chris Evans in there as much as you could without compromising Joe Mixon's touches, because he's such a threat and it was such a mismatch. And like in the passing game, like I said, you go 5 wide with him. I mean, what defense can handle that? I don't know that a defense can handle Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, CJ Uzomah, or hopefully CJ Uzomah, or whoever we have at that point, and Chris Evans split out. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you got to get to the quarterback. If you got a competent offensive line, you're just giving up at least 5 yards there. So at least that's how I feel about it. And but that I would love it. There's been times where I feel like they fell in love with Samaje after that. What was it? The year that Joe Mixon went down in 2019? Yeah,
the Texans game. Yeah, I think
when they
really
gave him the extension.
Yeah.
And I don't like to think that this, like, the better part, the better angels want me to think like, oh, they're putting him out there because he's the best option. But there's a little devil on me, like, you guys are just putting him out there to justify that contract. And I know it's unlikely that that's the case, but there's little whispers of it. But but yeah, that's how I feel. RB2, that's a great Nandon. This smart man, great minds think alike.
John, I got 3 words when I think of Chris Evans. And first of all, back to AJ's point about the design screen pass, maybe not having Reich in there and having questions at right guard later in the year. Obviously, that kind of throws a wrench in being able to consistently call that play. But 3 words I think of with Chris Evans, and I go, where is it? Is designed shovel pass. That seems like that would be a bread and butter play for a guy like Chris Evans.
Into Brian Leonard, like what
I love it, man. With the red zone issues, come on, I love it. I love it.
The new Rex Burkhead.
Right. Yeah.
Man. In fairness, though, the play that AJ was referring to, that was like some play action, and then the entire defense flown one way, and then you had Mixon. It wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily a screen, but it was a great block by Chase. In fairness to Perine, if someone has to take defense of him, I think he had a tougher touchdown when he actually scored on the screen pass against the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the highlight of his career.
He did. Yeah, that's right. Like, I don't hate him. I just,
yeah,
I just know that when you run a screen to the wrong side, it makes me look at you a little different. That's all.
Of course, yeah. Like every 41-yard screen for Pirine, he ends up messing up a play, and that's the reality with him, right? He's pretty limited, and I think I don't think you're that far off, Amac. Like I think there is the point that he's making $2 million a year, and you want him as the second running back behind Joe Mixon because you had that perceived confidence in him. But I think when they drafted Evans, they had a plan for him, and I don't think that plan was to get him involved immediately, but just have him just honing on his skills and then to develop into that receiving option that you were referring to. And I think that is ultimately going to be the plan with him going forward. I think just in general, having Pirine as a guy to maybe spell Mixon for like 3 to 5 carries a game just to get him a little rest, but they'll make it anything too interesting or anything too creative. You want Evans in that explosion and that dynamicy as an athlete. You want him on the perimeter. You want him outside the tackles because that's where he can do the most damage. And they have 3 more years left of him on his contract, and I think they will eventually get that kind of production. And at the same time, the more you take Joe Mixon off the field, the less value you're getting out of that deal with him. So it's a weird game that you have to play with all this. But I think going forward, you will see more opportunities with Evans, and especially now that Pirine is not really going to change much as an athlete or as a running back in general.
Talking with the Aarons, Hude, AJ, and Amac, joining us as guest co-hosts on the Roundtable and Listener Questions Live. Be sure to get your questions to us. I'm Anthony, and joined as usual by John, and having a couple special guests. You can call or text 949-542-6241. We've got a few texts in the queue. We're going to try and get to those. You can submit your questions via chat. We're trying to give the super chats a little bit of priority. We've got a couple more to get to on that front. And then, of course, we're monitoring Twitter, email, theobinsider@gmail.com, and a post on cincyjungle.com. Facebook, you can submit questions as well. So no excuses. Play like a champion. Get your questions in. We're going to be here for a little while longer. Let's go, if we can. This is just a fun one. Take a little break from this heavy talk here. Our buddy Stuart, who is always so generous with us here. Do you guys have a favorite play or game in the past season? What really got you out of your seat? I'm going to, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to start because I literally have a play that got me out of my seat at Paul Brown Stadium. The one game I went to where I finally met my boy John in person in week 1 against the Vikings. The play to Chase after all the preseason stuff about drops and the bomb, and there he is right there. That was one. But in that game as well, I was pretty irritated with the allowing of the Vikings to come back in that game a bit. And in overtime, that play to CJ Uzomah, the play action fake on the 4th down that got him into field goal range. I was standing the entire game. I started to sit because I felt like the Bengals were letting this one slip away. And there's that play. That one got me out of my seat, I think. Obviously, there are many, many others in the postseason and whatnot, but that was one. Thanks for allowing me to go first. Hey, Mac, I'll let you go next.
What a year to ask that question, right?
I know.
That's a tough one. I think my favorite game I'll do my favorite game and my favorite play. My favorite game was probably hands down the Kansas City game the first time around. It was like it was like a glimpse into what this team like when they're working at their almost full potential, at least offensively, could be. Because we had so many games where like most of the season we were relying on a bit of explosion here and there from the offense, and then the defense playing stout or holding or putting the clamps on as much as they could, and but this game was just like it was like explosion after explosion after explosion, like over and over and over again. Even if it was inconsistent, it was just like I felt unstoppable. 3rd and 29, who cares? Like it's just throw it to Chase. He's there, he's open, he got it. So that was my favorite game to watch because I was like, man, if we could, this is what it could be. You know what I mean? And then you got the name plateless Joe Burrow at the end. Like that's movie stuff, man. That's like amazing. And then my favorite play though was probably the 49ers game. The pass, man, the chemistry between Chase and Burrow on display, and that pass in the back of the end zone. and he catches it with just like no room to like step out of bounds, and the throw from Burrow while he's almost out of bounds. Like, man, it was just such a. I still remember him doing it. He does this, like, get over here.
Yeah.
Throws it down the field, and it's beautiful. I saw that. I watched that on replay like a lot. I remember going back to that play off. I know we lost the game, and but man, that play right there, man, I was astounded. Like that was when I was like, there was already no question for me, but like but I'm like, chemistry matters. Like if there's ever a case of what chemistry matters right there between a wide receiver, 10,000 catches or whatever, that is the result right there. So yeah,
AJ,
I can't believe he didn't step out of bounds. I cannot believe he didn't step out of bounds.
My brain just couldn't accept it. I just kept looking for reasons why they were going to call it back. Like there's
right. I was like,
can't be something's wrong, right? Like
something had to go wrong. So for me, oh man, so I'm gonna go game and play. Since AMAC already talked about Jamar, game and play favorite is going to be for me the Raiders game. So like I said, so I became a fan of '88 off that AFC Championship win. I was 11. Like I said, I really didn't grow up watching football, so I didn't. Like something that AMAC talked about before, like, just as he was really getting into and understanding the football was the Carson Palmer Bengals. So I just picked the team because they beat the Bills. So that Raiders beating the Raiders and ending the 31-year drought, that was really, really special. I think, Anthony, I don't know if you liked or commented under my tweet, because that game, like I went live during that game, so that was when the interception, the Jermaine Pratt interception. The only thing I kept saying was no flags, just no flags, no flags, no flags, no flags. I think that got like a bunch of retweets and likes and everything, because it's just me in the same shirt I'm wearing now, my Joe Mixon jersey shirt, just yelling no flags, and they were like, no flags, no. So I'm gonna go game and play, same one, Raiders game, ending the drought, and then Jermaine Pratt and that outstanding interception right there.
That's definitely my favorite in person. I went to 2 games, and that was one of them, and just seeing the whole stadium just erupt,
oh my god,
in a way that I've never seen before in my life. Like that was a surreal moment for sure. Man. But to give a different answer here, I'm gonna say my favorite play was probably 3rd and 27 against the Chiefs. Just go ball one-on-one to Jamar Chase. Like just that whole series. It's so defining to me, because they had like a holding, they had a sack, and then it was 2nd and 27. They could have just took like a little gainer to get in field goal range. No, they went deep to T. Higgins again. Then it was incomplete. Then they could have again just had a little dump off to get into field goal range against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. No, they went for it all, and they got it all basically. And then they eliminated the clock and won the game. Like that game, I think instilled confidence in the entire fan base that they can compete with anybody. Like they can go to the playoffs and actually do something. I think it was such a turning point in Zach Taylor's tenure and just this entire Bengals team's identity. It was so impactful, but it may never happen again. Like I don't think that any team will ever defend Jamar Chase like that ever again in that situation, but it was a great one-time thing.
Man,
he never know.
That ball. He held it, like he caught it, and it was like
he caught it and was holding it all over the place. Like, get away from me! I still have it. You're never gonna get it. Like it's okay. Like
it was like the commercial. You almost had it.
It was like this in the end zone too.
When he scored, Oh man.
Honorable mention has to be that. When Kevin Harlan described it as he put him in a blender.
Put him in a blender. And the Ravens. 82 yards. Chase, he put him in a blender.
Oh my gosh.
There's a still shot of him like coming out of the spin with like he's pointing forward. I was like, yo, that I gotta do something with that. Like that is a cool image, man. But I'm sorry to interrupt, Anthony. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. That's all I was saying. That was an honorable mention for me. We're gonna be both you guys, are you okay on time?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, John, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking, not telling. By the way, I am asking.
No, John, you good? You good?
Yeah, John, you're good. You're good.
You will be good.
Yeah. Where do you want? I'll let you pick the next one, John. Where do you want to go next?
So I think we had just a normal comment here not too long ago. I think it was like, if you could have like, oh yeah, here we go. From One Nation Underground. If you could pick one free agent right now, anybody, pocketbook or checkbook, not an option, unlimited money. If you could have one free agent right now, who would it be? Anthony, you go ahead and start.
I believe it was this one right here. Who? No, not that one.
Right person, wrong comment.
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
One Nation's been going off in the chat. So
yeah, I like it though. They're getting me. Right here. I just keep going back to, in terms of a free agent and in terms of getting another solid tackle, and maybe not breaking the bank. If you look at Morgan Moses and the fact that he had a pretty solid year with the Washington football team a couple of years ago, and only parlayed, especially I think his PFF score overall was in the 80s, parlayed that only into a pretty manageable 1-year contract with the Jets. From an affordability standpoint, he's not probably going to be an all-pro guy or anything like that, but he's younger than Riley Reif. You could probably get him on at least he'll get a good contract, no doubt about it, but this isn't inheriting a Laramie Tunsil type of contract in my estimation. So to me, I think you get a little younger, you provide that steadiness on the other tackle spot. It's not going to move the needle as much as a Tunsil trade or anything like that. But to me, I think a Morgan Moses, we'll see what happens. I haven't been monitoring, admittedly, stuff today, so I don't know if he's signed a franchise tag. I hope not, if I'm going in a Morgan Moses tirade here. But as of now, that's a guy I think you can get on a relatively decent deal and can help your offensive line out. And then you can kind of figure out, okay, you've got Jonah on one side, you've got Moses on the other side. You've already got some developmental guys that you're trying to work with at the guard spots internally. You can maybe draft some more as long as you have those bookend players. That would be a guy to me, I think, that I look at and say, just it makes a lot of sense.
AJ, let's go with you next.
So if pocketbook doesn't matter whatsoever, then just sign me up for Teron Armstead right now. Yeah. You just look at the. So what I like to look at and like to think about is, you can look at the team that the Saints had last year. They no Drew Brees, and then Jameis Winston actually doesn't play terribly bad. It doesn't look bad at all, but then he tears his ACL. So then they trot out Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill, and the Saints still almost found their way into a playoff spot. I think when they finished did they finish 9-8 or 9? Yeah, I think they finished 9-8. So that just goes to show how good Sean Payton was as a head coach. But those three quarterbacks between Jameis Winston, Trevor Siemian, and Taysom Hill, they did not get sacked a lot. They were still able to run the ball very well with Alvin Kamara, and I forgot who they brought back in there when Kamara got hurt for a little bit. But that's the kind of offense that's the tackle that I want. You can keep those guys up, and you can make them, like, those three quarterbacks look relevant and almost, yeah. Give me Teron Armstead. That's my guy. Because if you're telling me that if the pocketbook doesn't matter, there's no, just giving the money, there's no consequences behind it. Yeah.
Well, he seems definitely like the consensus. Like, obviously, we don't think that that's going to happen, but
right.
There's so many free agents out there, and it feels like he's just the one guy that just meets need in everything. So, hey, Mac, you got a different answer, or you want Armstead too?
I got a different answer. Armstead's fine, but just for the sake of conversation, I want J.C. Jackson. Give me that guy in the cornerback room right now, because that way you take a strength, or you take something that was strong, and you just make it even stronger. A lot of our sacks this year they were like coverage sacks. And I'm not opposed to keeping that the case, because that means you can just still keep your rush for, tendency and keep these quarterbacks who are really good at under blitzes and stuff, keep them holding it just a beat longer than they need to. And I think that we got some guys who can get home, especially with I don't want to put too much faith in a rookie because technically it's unproven, but if what's his name? Osai comes back and he's anything like he looked like he was supposed to be. And you got him and Hendrickson rushing, and you got a solid secondary, man. Like, and then not to mention the takeaways factor, you know what I mean? Like, just more people who can take the ball away, more possessions for Burrow. Like, so yeah, JC would be a good one for me if pocketbook means is not a question at all. Like, I would like to see that.
Yeah, that's a good one, and I think Mike Hilton was trying to recruit him on Twitter, like he tries to do with the entire rest of the NFL.
Right.
I think people love Armstead because he's such like a scheme fit, and he's obviously dominant, and he plays left tackle, and the Bengals already have a decent left tackle, but you can move around Jonah if you feel like you need to. The biggest need still though is guard, either guard spot, and I think the guy that fits that the best, regardless of money and everything, is probably Laken Tomlinson, who is the same age as Armstead, but he doesn't have the injury history. And the injury history with Armstead's a little bit overblown. He hasn't missed that many games. That was a couple of years ago. It's just been kind of on and off of late. But there is no real concerns with Tomlinson at all. He's been in the league for like 6 years now. He comes from that Shanahan system where they run a lot of wide zone, just very scheme diverse. It's just not really anything that he can't necessarily do. And he's just really good in everything that he does. And he's 30, so the same age as Armstead, so he still has presumably 2 to 3 more dominant years left. I don't think he's going to absolutely break the bank at the guard market, which, again, it definitely would matter for the Bengals' perspective. But I think just filling that absolute need and just plugging one of those holes, a guy that can do anything that they ask him to, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I like it. We've got a few texts. I want to try and get to those, and then we've got some other questions in the chats that we want to try to get to as well. We had a comment. A lot of offensive line stuff. Here's one from Dre saying, I don't think the offensive line was much better this year than last year. Did Frank Pollock have the impact you thought he would? Yes and no, in my estimation. I would say that he did a pretty good job with what was there and what he was able to use in terms of injury and whatnot. John and I have talked quite a bit about, to me, what seemed like the biggest improvement was, especially when you had, Reif in there and whatnot, there just was a far fewer amount of those drive-killing penalties, those holds, those false starts. They got a little more prevalent as the year went on, but I mean, man, when it was Redmond and Bobby Hart and that crew out there, it was false start after false start. It was hold. It would just absolutely kill drives. Now, what ended up killing drives this year were the sacks that were taken, and obviously the amount of hits that Burrow took, which are far less than ideal. But to me, the one big area is that I saw improvement was, I guess, if you want to call it disciplined play, wherein they were just not getting called for nearly as many holds, not as many false starts. And I think that was a quiet key to the Bengals putting up a lot of points and having these offensive explosions against teams. But John, I don't know what you think about that. I'd love to hear from the Aarons as well on this.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that they just played like a more synchronized unit. Like there was a lot less chaos, and the pitfalls of the unit had nothing really to do with coaching. It was just they just didn't have the players. Yeah. Like I mean, obviously coaching is involved with putting Hakeem Adeniji at right guard and getting Isaiah Prince and keeping him out there instead of maybe another option. But as far as just the guys who were out there, like the mistakes were it was just personnel wise. It wasn't miscommunication. It wasn't, like Anthony said, faulty penalties. And I think just the overall effectiveness of run blocking, again, it still was just a lack of personnel. But I think the unit, in terms of just run blocking, I think they performed as good as they possibly could have. And I don't think you could have said that had Jim Turner still been here. And I think Joe Mixon's great season was a testament to that. So it can only get better the better players that are there. But I think the coaching is in place, and it'll probably only get better now that they have a third guy who's presumably going to be focusing more on development.
AJ?
Yeah, so so before this season, Joe Mixon's best season came when Frank Pollock was the offensive line coach. And that it can't go understated that as soon as Frank Pollock came back, Joe Mixon said that. Like he came out and he was tweeting. He's like, my guy is back. And and Joe Mixon was number 3 rusher and I don't know if it was number 3 in the league or I think he was like number 3 in the league in rushing and all the like 13 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns. So Frank Pollock definitely made a big difference, a vast difference along the offensive line. And like John pointed out, you can only work with what you have, right? And not disparaging any of those men who are playing the sport because they're playing the sport. We're talking about it, but
yeah,
I feel like he got the most out of the talent that is on the field. Like all the penalties and all those things, like those are gone. And that comes with that's coaching, and that is discipline, that is consistency, that is just the guys looking at each other and they look at Frank and Frank's like XYZ, and those guys are like, yeah, XYZ, let's just go do it. And they were just out there, doing the best of doing the best of their ability, and then just doing it well on a consistent basis. And if you make some upgrades, just like imagine that make some upgrades and give that guy more talent. Like I would go back to the point I made about the New Orleans Saints. Like, look what Sean Payton did with that team. And I can't believe Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston. They got 9. How they get 9 wins out of that football team? Like I do not understand. I don't know. So coaching goes a long way. So yeah, I think Frank Pollock did an outstanding job. I'm glad he came back.
Yeah, Mac, there's just that still chicken, and it's John talked about it, the chicken or the egg argument, where there's the development, and I think we all are in agreement that he got the most out of what he had, but they also gave him a lot of responsibility, it seems, as a coach, and maybe a lot of say being the run game coordinator. So in some ways, I think the gripe is, he got a lot out of Joe Mixon. The penalties were decreased, all that sort of thing. But he probably also still has some form of a say in the perceived overall lack of talent that was collected on the offensive line. So I think there's a little bit of this and that. With
and what I would rebut that with, like, is I would say, that would be cool if it wasn't a historic tendency for the Bengals to do this, to undervalue the guard position and to not, to try to get what they can and get by with what they can. They've historically made mistakes. I mean, from the Cedric Ogbuehi stuff to the Billy Price pick to it's just they've been ever since letting Whitworth and Zeitler walk the same year. Those are just things that that is a tendency that they had before Frank Pollock. So I'm not ready to put that on Frank Pollock. And to me, there was, things that were said, like when we were like, oh, we can't spend all this money on a guard because we're trying to extend Jesse Bates. And then you don't extend Jesse Bates. You know what I mean? And then you miss on your second round draft pick that you picked to fix all of that. Like, those are all things that, like, Frank did what he did. He's the run game coordinator, and the run game looked the best it had in 2 years since Turner got here. So I mean, give him credit for where it's at. Like you said, the team, there's no way this team survives if they commit as many penalties and give up as many sacks. Like, if they give up the sacks they gave up this year and commit the penalties that they committed in years past, there's no way this team gets where they got. No way. Not even a little bit. So with that, you got to look. He's coaching from a handicap, a talent deficiency. So you're going to get, and everybody knows that. And the fact that you got that, they were able to get to the Super Bowl with that, and with him, coaching through that, I think he's worth it, for sure. I mean, especially, and I don't understand how you can even question if he's worth it after you come off of Jim Turner. Did you not watch the last 2 years? And then the difference between the two, he's absolutely had an impact. There's not even a question about it. So in my opinion. Anyway, so I know he's had an impact. You can argue whether it was what they expected or whatever. I think so. I just think that they did not get the talent that they needed to get for it to really, really show to our eyes who don't get to see behind the scenes and the installs and all of this stuff. So, yeah. So,
all right. Well, let's couple up a couple of different super chats here talking about talent on the offensive line, and then we're going to switch gears and maybe start closing up here because we are going long, but this has been a ton of fun. We've got Drake Berry. What are your thoughts on Connor Williams from Dallas? If you were to offer him, what would that look like? Talking about adding, Amac, you were just talking about adding talent. Then Hude here with a creative number for their super chat donation there. Do you
690?
Yeah.
What's creative about that?
Nothing. Do you think the O-line will fundamentally change, or is the front office content with half measures like Reich? I don't know if half measures is really a fair assessment there. John, what do you think about Connor Williams being added to potentially being added to the team and the offensive line, and or is it going to be a little bit more bargain bin hunting? I know we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday.
Yeah, Connor Williams makes a lot of sense just because he's young and you hope that he hasn't played his best football yet. And that's entirely reasonable because he's only 24 years old. The penalties are kind of worrisome, but there's still a lot of good things that he does in the run game. And you think that with a better coach, like he can be a more technically refined pass protector, but that's just betting on youth and upside, which is what they did kind of in the past couple of years in free agency. And that's why he could be more affordable than some of the other guards. But I think that kind of leads into the second part of the question. Will they fundamentally change how they build the offensive line? I don't think so, because that would involve them getting like truly like the Armsteads of the world, right? Like the Lakin Tomlinsons, like the known commodities that end up costing a lot more than some of the other pieces. I don't think they will ever truly get to that point. And I don't know what could possibly push them aside from just different ownership. So I think you will see guys like Williams. I'm not predicting Williams specifically, but a Williams signing makes sense because of those factors of what would make him more affordable than some of the other like known pieces.
Yeah. AJ?
It's tough. And the only reason why I'm saying it's tough is because, everything that AMAC said, we've seen it happen before, and in undervaluing talent and undervaluing the talent and overvaluing your own personal knowledge. That has bit the Bengals in the butt.
That is well said. Yeah.
What I mean? Like, that's really what it boils down to when you let Andrew Whitworth go, and then you let Kevin Zeitler go. Then you watch them go off and have the careers that they had, and the guys that you brought in, Obuehi and Fisher. Oh God.
Well, Fisher was sick though. I don't want to beat on him too much.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a heart problem? Like
yeah. So we can't. This is not the time to go down that like they said that the half measures. I won't call Riley Reich a half measure like Anthony said, but I know what the consensus what he was saying when he put the message in there. This is not the time to do that at all. So yeah, you bring in a Connor Williams and you let Frank Pollock work with him, and you let other veterans work with him. If he has penalties like a holding or if it's false starts, that's why you have veterans on the team. Like, hey guy, this is you work together with him, and hey guy, this is how we do it here. This is the reason why we don't have our penalties. But yeah, no. And if you don't want to break the bank, if you don't want to go too far, if you don't want to do super crazy elite, that's fine. But this is not the time to joke around. This is not the time to play and go. Let's just run it back with the guys we had last year. Like, no, you run it back with the guys you have last year if you never made it to the Super Bowl. So in year 3, if Zach Taylor goes 17 games, if he goes 8-9, or if he goes 7-10, okay, let me run it back. You gotta just get to the Super Bowl. Okay, like it's not joke around time. We don't want Joe Burrow ending up to be Dan Marino. Go to one Super Bowl and like, we could do this. I got Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, Dan Marino. Let's go, and then it never happens again because you don't make the necessary adjustments, and that's what killed Dan Marino. They never gave Dan a running game. The defense was never good enough. They were like, hey, we can just keep running it back because we have Dan Marino. But this is not the time to do that. You have Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and C.J. Uzomah, and Joe Mixon. And so you got to go out there and you have to make an impact signing. It doesn't have to be ultra elite. It doesn't have to be Terran Armstead like John said. It has to be a good, impactful signing on offensive line. Right. That's what it has to be.
Yeah, AMAC, yeah. I'm still not over the whole Nate Living's Evan Mathis disaster from that, and the Bengals just kind of not getting out of their own way on that and making the wrong decisions there. I don't know if that's really pertinent to the conversation that we're having right now, but I'm still holding on to some anger there.
Yeah. It's all good.
But your thoughts on these two questions here?
Yeah. So I mean, the question about the half measures and things like that, it's much like he was saying, like. And it goes back to a point that I made earlier, is that every time you compromise on who you're going to get, like when you're trying to take half measures and you're trying to cut, or when you're trying to cut corners or whatever, what you're doing, you're adding more variables, right? You're just adding the chance that he could work. Oh, this guy, he'll take this much and this ceiling, da. The more variables you add to that line, that's the thing I'm tired of seeing. Like you have not. It's 6 years since you've been like. Solid. I mean, you got Jonah Williams, like, right? I guess, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's working out so far, but I mean, you've had many more whiffs in this point than you haven't. And like you said, getting in the way of letting your own personal knowledge and your own personal things get in the way of what is just clearly, obviously, the best option there is something that I don't want to see. I think that they will change, though. I was at that pep rally. That they had after the season was over. I've never heard Mike Brown talk so greasy. He was talking like you, like it was almost like it was like a warning to the rest of the. I've never heard him be that way. Like I feel like he is feeling the energy and the change, and not only is he feeling, he's seeing it. It's registering in the pocket. You almost sold out your season tickets. Like I don't even know. Has that ever happened? Like I don't know that has happened before. Like in my Bengals history. So like I mean like and everybody was there. Like it's a park full of. You look out, it's a sea of people in the park for a team that came in second place. You know what I mean? You didn't even win the Super Bowl, and it was just like it was a lot of people. Their energy was there. It was like kind of drizzling rain. It was cold. It was dreary, and we're just standing in this muddy front yard or the muddy park yard, and just hoping to say, yeah, it turns out to be more of like a political rally or anything. But anyways, but like, that's what I'm saying. Like the excitement there, if you can't feel that, you can't see those 30,000 fans sound like 100,000 fans when you have your pep rally in the stadium and everybody's coming out and it seems like the stadium's full and it's only the bottom row. Like that has to change you. I understand that they're shrewd and I understand he's in his own way and things like that. But I don't think he's seen this level of excitement, even with the successful teams that he's had in the past. I don't think there's been this level of optimism. It's like a combination of optimism and excitement and expectation. You know what I mean? Like it's a perfect blend of all three. And this could alter how you think. And he's not a spring chicken either. Like I think he wants to get one, and he's seen how close he. Like I don't think that you can come away being that close and not do everything you can to get back. So I believe them when they say that they're gonna now. Granted, what that means to me and what that means to them could be two different things. But I do expect a concerted effort to correct our shortcomings in this upcoming thing. I think that there will be at least some type of change in the mindset approaching this offseason.
And lost in this conversation a little bit is, we know these guys want their money, like their money, but they also are probably in tune as to just what the Bengals did last year and who their quarterback is, meaning these outside free agents looking for a contract. Not saying they're going to get some huge discount or whatever, but if there is a comparable deal on the table between two teams and they're looking at the Joe Burrow-led Bengals as opposed to somebody else, they may be more inclined to take something that maybe slightly less appealing than another place. Right. Who knows? We've seen that and heard about that happening before. Let's get to a couple more, John, and we'll get out of here. Do you see one that we need to get to? And I appreciate all your guys' time here. I know we're going long, but this has been a great chat.
Yeah, I figure we use a little bit of a rapid fire session here. We have, I think, two questions that me and Anthony addressed in Wednesday's show. So we'll go back and forth with the errands here with a little rapid fire. First of all, you have BJ Hill, Larry Ogunjobi both entering free agency. One of them gets resigned, both of them gets resigned, or neither one of them gets resigned. Let's go with AMAC first.
I say one of them gets resigned. Honestly, whichever one is the contract looks more favorable to the team. And I think I think you guys might have said this. Who like they might put contracts out, and whoever gets it first is who gets it first, kind of like that type of deal. So I think that'll go. I don't know that like Ogunjobi's good, but he has some inconsistencies there. BJ Hill is also good. So yeah, it's kind of like a pick'ems type deal there.
Hey, AJ?
It has to be one or the other. If we can get both, I would love to have both back. I think I would prefer. I think I would prefer BJ Hill over Ogunjobi. I think both are very good in the run, but I think BJ Hill he's more of a dual threat. He can get does very good against the run, and he's also great. He's a little bit better. He grades out a little bit better at rushing the passer, and then plus he had that awesome interception too. So that puts him over the top for me.
Yeah, and then those two will be in focus for them to resign, but obviously none will be bigger than Jesse Bates, and that window is now I think less than 2 weeks to get him franchise tag. So what are we thinking there? Are we thinking tag an extension, or tag he plays on the tag, or they don't do anything with him at all? AJ?
I think honestly, I think the deal gets done. I personally believe that the money that they're going to use to sign Jesse is going to come from cutting Trey Waynes. Trey Waynes out the door, take that money, flip it over, and use it for Jesse Bates. I don't really see them using the franchise tag on him. I don't really have a good reason why. I don't think they would use the franchise tag on a safety. Maybe it's the shrewdness, and it would cost too much money, and in the long run, it'd be better just to make sure they got the deal done. But I see them using the tag, somebody else that's going to cost a whole lot less, like maybe on the BJ Hill or maybe on the Ogunjobi. Like you sign Hill, franchise tag Ogunjobi, and then bring in Jesse Bates in the deal. But I think that money's going to come from when they cut Trey Waynes, and I think that's why the extension hasn't happened yet. They want to wait to see exactly how much money they're going to have in the with the salary cap, and then how much money they're going to be able to save once they cut Trey Waynes. Which I'm kind of upset that didn't work out with him, and I'm sorry to keep talking. I'm kind of upset it didn't work out with Trey, because I thought he was a very good corner coming out of Minnesota. And really wanted him to do well here, but unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Yeah, he came on our show like soon after he signed that deal, and he seemed like a chill dude. And it sucks when guys get hurt like that, but hopefully he does better with his next opportunity. Amac, what do you got for Jesse Bates?
Right. It's nothing personal there. He just got hurt. That's all.
Yeah,
it was rough. I think that they are going to extend Jesse Bates. I think that it's too much. Like, there's a lot of pressure. That's one thing. Like, you can say whatever that factor is, rate that how you want to. But I think that it's actually like his play on the field was undeniable in the playoffs. I mean, you can't. And the cap is it's going to go up. It's always going to go up. It's always going to increase. It's whatever. If the highest paid person this year, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that much in the long term. I hope they don't franchise tag him, man. Like, it just you see that it affects the what it is on the field. Like, you see that it affects how he plays on the field. He admitted it at himself as much. So, I mean, you're almost doing your team a disservice by doing that. If you're gonna franchise tag him, you're putting yourself a bit at a disadvantage. You're putting him at a disadvantage mentally. So your team at a disadvantage. And that's just one aspect of it. The morale. He's your homegrown guy. He's the one that this is exactly what you talked about. Retaining your old free agents. He's fits into your what should have been your free agency mindset in this whole time is draft and retain. So if you can't retain this guy, I don't know. Draft and retain doesn't seem as genuine to upcoming guys.
To that point, real quick, just to piggyback, to make sure we hit as many bases as possible where we're getting questions. We got a tweet from Greg Kirkhart that was directed to John and I. And John, if you want to take the lead on this too, that's cool. But just what do you think the sticking point is? It sounded like AJ said he thought maybe waiting on the Trey Waynes cutting and seeing exactly what kind of idea they would have on available cap space and what that would look like. But do you see, Greg is specifically asking, is it just money in general, guaranteed money, length? It's hard to understand what is holding it up, is what Greg tweets at us.
So the sticking point meaning, like, why is he not signed yet?
Why is it not done? Yeah.
Yeah. Deadline's not here yet. It is all about the deadlines, man. Like, both sides have a number, and that number hopefully gets closer in resemblance until the tag window expires. But it's always about the money. I think they recognize that they have their books. They recognize the financials, what space they need, and whatnot. It's all about the cash flow. It's all about how much money he gets in the first 2 years, the first 3 years. How does that match up with Jamal Adams? They know that they're not going to give out guaranteed salaries. They have to counter that with roster bonuses and whatnot, and that's just their way of doing it. Bates has an understanding of that. Bates' representation has an understanding of that. So long as the offer is as close as to what Bates wants, he's not going to get to the open market. And I think ultimately the tag will probably be used, but I would have a good feeling that they could reach an agreement in the July deadline before that time. So that's just where I see it. Until then, it wouldn't surprise me though if they do come to an agreement though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to start wrapping things up for us. We've gone a little long, but it's been awesome. A little bit of news that we did not get to that hit the wire, I think, a little bit before we took the air. Bengals defensive tackle Renell Wren is now a Philadelphia Eagle.
He's an Eagle now.
So,
yeah.
Eagle. So he signed over there. So now that defensive line, where there are a lot of impending free agents, just got a little bit thinner with Wren leaving for the Eagles. So look for that. We had the conversation about Ogunjobi and Hill. Look for the Bengals to really focus in on that interior defensive line and figure some things out on the defensive line in general. I
feel like they attacked that in the draft a little bit.
I do too. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. A lot of different places. Good news is they do get Osai back. Hopefully he'll be looking like the guy that we saw in the one preseason game there. He was an animal there. But hey, Aaron and Aaron, thank you so much for coming on here. Where can folks find you on Twitter? Hude AJ, where are you at again?
Hold on a second. It's double underscore A underscore Hude.
Okay. And AMAC, where are you at on Twitter?
I am A underscore Mac 513 on Twitter. I might be getting into content creation myself pretty soon here, so be on the lookouts for that. But if you want some the occasional Bengals news with a whole bunch of memes that I deem funny, feel free to follow.
I like it. Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming on and making a good amount of time. We'll make this, like I said, this won't be a one-time thing. We'll definitely have you guys back and do some different things with you for sure. Appreciate you making the time. And for those who are new around these parts, this is the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast, which is part of the Cincy Jungle podcast channel and is under the SB Nation network umbrella. And this show, along with Orange is the New Black from Ace and Zim and Coach Speak and Chalk Talk from Matt Minnick, are all part of the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. If you like the audio side of things, you can find our show and those shows on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all the major streamers. We are on there. You got to look for the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. And of course, this time it's right. I believe it's right down by AMAC there. There's going to be a little icon that you can click to subscribe to that side. There you go. Right click that to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we go live, when new content gets available. So you get notified right when new stuff like Listener Questions Live with some special guests comes out for you. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. John, it's been a pleasure as usual, my friend. And Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show once again. We'll make it a more than one time thing, a regular thing for sure. But thanks for making time, fellas.
I definitely appreciate you guys having me on, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Great.
A lot of fun. Hude, a lot
definitely
of fun.
Hude.
All right. Take it easy,
Enjoy your weekend.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too.